Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 204 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Miss Eni Xu. She's an illustrator and visual development artist based in New York. And of course, in the for contact section of the captions, you can check the ID, her Instagram ID, and also a link to her link tree, which you can see the rest of her links, which is Twitch, Twitter, and all that good stuff. Portfolio, website, and yeah. So before we jump into the first signature question, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. I had a lot of sleep last night, and artists need rest. So I'm here. I'm happy,
All right, awesome.
excited. Thank you for having me.
And by the way, are your finals still? Are you in uni right now, right? College?
Yes, I am in college.
And your finals are over, or you're in the process of your finals? Yes, still.
My finals were over, but a new semester begins. So,
Yeah, you're in
still
that
getting
middle
it.
of between period where you're free and you can chill between the semesters, right?
Yes, easing
All
into
right,
the semester at the moment. Yeah.
all right, awesome. And all right, let's jump into the first signature question when I ask everyone. Give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, tell us a story of what led you to the decision that you want to become an artist or pursue art.
hmm Okay, so it definitely started when I was quite young, as probably many artists is this case. For me, when I first watched the show Peter Pan, because it was like my first childhood show, I was extremely inspired, and I was so like fascinated by how Peter Pan is like able to move, how much this fictional character created this bond with me, and like just the power of storytelling itself. I always enjoyed like voice acting. I would also take out my sketchbook. It was like my best friend, and I would draw Peter Pan in the same pose over and over and over and imagine that it was somehow like come out of my sketchbook or something. It's a silly little thought or like ritual that I used to do with all my fictional childhood crushes, etc. That just started, I guess, my love for art. I always loved drawing. I take my sketchbook everywhere, like on the plane and whenever there's time to spare. And by the time of high school ish, I also need to face like the important decision of what to actually study in college. And yeah, me being, I guess, raised in this mindset that like, success is maybe money or something, this like um, common misconception. So I thought of studying biochemistry first, although I really do love this field and is fascinated by all the inner workings of like biochem. I also listened to a lecture by an inspiring guest at my school, and they said that um, the definition of success is ultimately waking up and absolutely loving what you do every moment. And I just thought carefully about like the choices I've made, and eventually I think art is something that I would spend my spare time like loving to do. And that just led me to find my light in art. And in terms of like what continues to inspire me is just like being able to walk out and realize that art is everywhere in our lives, and especially it working in like the animation field, like being able to see everyone as like an animated system, or like um, just being able to like let fantasy roam my life, I guess, and being able to draw it and put it on paper is always very magical. So yeah, that's basically how I got exposed to art, and now I'm here.
All right, and I usually ask people this question later in the podcast, but I want to ask you this now. Who are some of your favorite designers and artists that have inspired you the most? Because I'm kind
Mm.
of curious.
Okay, so I have quite a few, but I definitely want to say that Ross Tran is my greatest inspiration. I've got the pleasure of meeting him this year, and um, yeah, so for like 4 to 5 years, he's a concept artist, and he worked for Earth to Echo, and he does gorgeous illustrations that tell a beautiful visual story, very ethereal. So in terms of digital painting and also a positive mindset and personality, I was very inspired by him. Other inspirations I had are, for example, Corey Loftus. He's a very well-known character designer and very great at using shape language in his character design. So I really admire him, because one of my best favorite Disney movies is Zootopia. The way he personifies animals. I have the art of book, so I really love Corey's work, Loftus' work. Um, I also really enjoy Paul Felix's backgrounds. He is also a visual development artist who worked in also Raya and the Last Dragon. And yeah, just the way he creates textures is immaculate. And another, I guess, bigger inspiration would probably be like Miyazaki, because ever since childhood, I guess, or maybe middle schoolish, when I first got exposed to Miyazaki, um I was so blown away by the ability of him being able to like draw all these everyday elements and then with a splash of whimsical fantasy make everything seem so uncanny. And that's what I really like about Miyazaki. And I guess brief mentions of Amy Thompson, who is also a great visual development artist, with her brushstrokes and her whole like journey of being an artist and climbing up the, I guess, yeah, just growing as an artist is very inspiring. And Laura Price as well. There's just a lot to name, I guess. There's no end to the list.
Before I actually jump into the next question, I want to point out something interesting that I think a lot of the people who might listen to the podcast could also agree with me. You know how the industry is, all around the world, not just in art, but basically in everything. Unless
Yeah.
you've become a top dog in your field, or you've, I don't know, been hired by that, top, companies or studios, no one really cares about you, especially, in art, like look at the podcast interviews usually. But the thing that is really like with my philosophy with, I do with this podcast is that like everyone, regardless of their journey, where they are, they all have a nugget of wisdom or knowledge we can learn from it. It doesn't have to be a knowledge or wisdom technically. It could be a mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
I really like it's been just 7 minutes, but I can really feel your passion for your craft. Like your genuine. It's genuine. It's not being corrupted by capitalism yet. but
No.
but yeah, like, and I think that's such a, like, an interesting thing, and especially people who have been working, grinding down the road in their journey of in any profession they want to get hired into. Like, it's nice to look at people who are like much younger and are just trying to get super good at their craft. They're still passionate. They're the world hasn't really gotten them down yet, but it's a really interesting source of inspiration. So I just want to point it out.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to see where you actually end up in the future, because listen, in 5 6 years, or maybe even sooner, we're gonna be hired, and you might become a top visitor artist in the industry. Everyone wants to interview you at that time, but I did it now, so I'm the first one. So, yeah.
Well, it's an honor to
It's
be on
kind
your
of an
podcast.
investment, 200 IQ move.
Big brain moment.
Exactly. All right, now, but jokes aside, I think it's kind of really nice that that I'm being able to kind of capture and portray this kind of passion for art that you have, and I hope that other people could kind of get inspired by that. And well, let's jump into the next topic, which is, I mean, of course, in the introduction, I mentioned you're mostly doing illustrations and you're trying to become a visual artist, or you're a visual artist right now. But I was wondering, what is the main branch of design you want to focus on, in the future, and become a professional at it?
So I guess I always really enjoyed working with color design, because like the role of color in creating ambience and atmosphere in like a keyframe or in an animated shot is always very fascinating to me. So I would love to work in the area of maybe like like color keys, or maybe um, background design. And but actually, I am still open to everything. I just love designing visual assets and um, bringing a world to life. World building is like a huge passion of mine. So um, anything, I really enjoy just, yeah, like just bringing those like bits and pieces of my ideas to life on like paper and or like on the canvas. Um, so I guess primarily I love designing interactive backgrounds or like keyframes, but I am really open to anything design related because I love them all. Yeah.
All right. And I was just wondering, have you ever, like, I kind of seen, where your inspiration comes from, but I was wondering, are you into like video games, since you were a kid, or you still are?
Yes, I am a very casual video gamer, and I usually watch people playing, but I really do. I love video games and like this medium. Yeah.
The reason I say that is because I've been recently, even I think if you said you listened to the Ever Fresh Design episode 203 one, right? Because I think I told him to on that episode as well. One of the things that's really could make a game stand out and sell well in the industry right now, especially in the games, is good textures and art style. And because a lot of people right now, I think, are looking more for experiences rather than just that quick dopamine rush of like playing games. Like
Mhm.
mm, I don't really have, like, it's so weird because I have so many names in my head, but right now I don't have a clear train of thought.
Right.
But I think, like, you posted a video, I think, time reel of your animation reel of fall 2022. Like,
Yes.
even the girl that's, with the rabbit, I think a 2D, like, kind of like cardboard style graphics, game with that kind of aesthetic could really be something nice.
Hmm.
Like, maybe you
That
could tell a story in that medium.
Yeah, I actually never thought about it. Um, I really want my future animation styles to be, I guess, like revolving around this kind of shape design, and a lot of color design and just like that. And when you pointed out like mobile games, um, yeah, I've definitely seen game trailers with like this kind of aesthetic. Do you know Pikmin?
No.
Oh, but yes, so like this very, I guess, whimsical style, like it would be really fun to explore. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, yeah, it could be good for mobile game, but try not to limit yourself into like mobile, like any market specifically at the beginning.
No, 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 not at all.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, but don't
No.
get me wrong, like mobile market is actually extremely like popular. Like it could sell well. I'm not
Mm,
saying that, but just try to
yeah.
work on. Listen, the best mindset I think for a game design, like I'm not a pro game designer. I haven't designed a game in my whole life, so I just want to go on
Right.
record and say that. So
Okay.
but from my
Don't worry.
experience, I think if you go with the mindset of trying to design an experience rather than a product, that's, I think, the best, healthiest mindset. When it comes to making
Yeah.
actual fun video games.
Yeah.
Enjoyable video games.
I absolutely agree. I I guess the reason why I said like mobile games, it's just like I'm not super well versed in the video game whole industry, but um, uh, yeah, I totally agree. Like being able to design an experience for people to enjoy and to attach themselves to is just like really heartwarming to think about. And mostly I am inspired like also by the animation industry. I guess animation is like my primary inspiration, but the worlds that games create, like for example, I recently, I guess, started playing Genshin Impact, and yeah, and also some like The Legend of Zelda, etc. Like the an open worldness is inspiring to me, I guess. So, yeah,
Yeah, and
open to different mediums. Yes.
yeah, exactly. The thing is, you actually mentioned that you're not really well versed in video games. That's not a bad thing, actually, if you're an up and coming video game designer. Do you know why? Because your subconscious is not diluted by the already made cliches of the video game world. So you're coming with a completely fresh, outlook on this thing. So that's actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You know, try to,
Okay.
try to actually, while you're at the phase in your life that you can experiment a lot and risk a lot, I actually encourage you to actually go, pursue this and see where it goes without
Hmm.
worrying about, oh, if it's going to be a success or not. Try to make something that's completely what you like, don't forget the market,
Yeah.
forget the audience.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
if you do that, you're definitely going to make something unique. A lot of people might
Mhm.
not like it, but a lot of people might like it. It's
Yeah.
kind of, it's see it as like an experiment, and something you want to do. Like imagine, when you play games sometimes in Xbox or consoles, there's like achievement unlocked when you do things.
Mhm.
It's like,
Right.
achievement unlocked. I made my first game. Just see it like that.
Yeah. I agree. Like, actually, I do play a few, I guess, RPG related games, and most of the games I played are kind of individual indie projects. For example, um, RPG Maker games like uh, To the Moon by Ken Gao, who is also one of my greatest inspirations, and also Undertale. I guess a lot of story driven games, and story also really inspired me. Like, they kind of escaped the conventional norms of or stereotypes of how video games are like, I guess. Um, and it's really cool to see like creators doing what they love.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of, doing things that you like, I want to ask you, how does your design process usually go anytime you want to start working on a new piece or just a new project?
Mm. So my design process is usually whenever I create something, I kind of make sure that I got enough rest beforehand. Otherwise, the energy will not be, I guess. But I've never really when I okay, let me formulate this well. So when I create, I first make sure that I'm ready. I got like nutrition and everything because it's so important, and I realize that a lot of artists around me are like not treating themselves well beforehand before they create, and usually it results in burnout. And um, yeah, so artists, take care of yourselves. And then I guess sit down and like usually when I want to ease into creativity, I do observational studies first. I really like to take my sketchbook to maybe cafes or parks near me and just start drawing what I see. And that really helps me like gain a sense of, I guess, accomplishment and also ease my hand into doing things. Um, and actually, yeah, creating a product that I'm satisfied with and just being more observant. Because being creative is ultimately tracing back to, I guess, how you draw inspiration from the life around you. Um, and then um, after like maybe I gather some inspiration from like the subject matter that I want to base my inspirations around, I just start sketching. When I, for example, design characters or environments, I really like creating a mood board for it. For instance, just gathering all the like references that I want and putting them all together, and for different categories as well. Like, for example, if it's for a character, the outfits that they're inspired from, their whole personality could also be visually represented, and so on and so forth. And then I just start making like thumbnails and sketches, and then solidifying with um, just like a workflow. But sometimes it can also be very spontaneous. Yeah.
All right. Now, speaking of actually, you mentioned the topic about like, first taking care of yourself physically and mentally, and you just prepare yourself as much as possible for sketching. That's actually like, yeah, for creative works, especially because they're not really like, like, here's the thing with working out, you don't really need that kind of rituals. You just need to have discipline and go out and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But when it comes to creative and mental work, it's a bit different. Sure, it could be discipline and do things that don't require mental and creative juice, basically. Like maybe just, I don't know, practice sketching, or practice like that. You just, it's kind of like working out. It's just you need discipline. But when it comes to actual creativity and all that stuff, yeah, I think you're definitely right. You need to try to do your best to calm down your nervous system, basically, and just, be at peace physically, and that
Yeah.
usually, of course, you get the best results. And what are some of your favorite like relaxation methods? Actually, I was wondering.
I guess I really like listening to music that I really yeah. For example, sometimes a fun exercise that I also do to ease into the creative process is that I listen to music, and during the duration of the music, I would draw something related to that music's feel and like it's the lyrical meaning or something. And that really, I guess, music really inspires me. It's like another creative outlet, and like from a different source, my ears, and then translating into my like hand and eyes. It's like it's a great way of relaxing. But other than that, I also just really like enjoy maybe going to the gym, um, just to get my body in the right uh, state, and also just walking around because I live in New York and I think I should, uh, you know, just optimize everything. I love walking in the city, but back before I lived in New York, I lived in Germany in Bavaria, so I'm also very close with the forest. So yeah, just walking outside and have a switch of mindset, go to a gallery. I really enjoy doing that as well. Um, yeah.
All right. And now, actually, speaking of sketching and drawing inspiration, do you have a sketchbook in like close by so you can show us some of your do a little quick sketchbook tour for us? Explain a
Yes.
bit.
Okay, sure. Um, let's see. Is this okay? Oh,
Yeah, actually, it's okay. Yeah.
all right. So I guess I really enjoy people watching, and I guess going to parks and practicing sketching with the pen mostly because the pen is just a great trust exercise and also really helps you with line confidence. So this is like, for example, when I went upstate to go apple picking, and I just like this llama just won't stop moving. So it was fun to try to capture something in a short span of time, and some of my classmates, etc. Um, and yeah, also I just sat in Times Square and drew uh, like the entire scenery, for example, and yeah, just trying to experiment with different time limits uh, of drawing. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. So yeah.
Just
Uh,
wondering. I mean, I'm not sure about Europe, but especially in New York, like somewhere like Times Square, do you get people bothering you when you're sitting down and sketching, or it wasn't
oh,
really that bad?
it wasn't that bad. Some people they just come by and just start looking over my shoulder what I'm drawing, and I could sense their presence. And some people will come over and talk to me. It's not really bothering me at all. I really like conversing with people who watch me draw. But I could get some of my friends around me. They get like anxiety when this happens to them, and I totally understand how they feel. And this is during my Thanksgiving little potluck party with my friends, and it was really fun drawing them and more classmates. Oh, I also, of course, have some creative pages too. Like, I was listening to this melancholic song. So this is like the exercise that I kind of talked about earlier. I was listening to really sad and reminiscent song, and I started like drawing things that are relevant to it. And yeah, my classmate falling asleep during class. It's like she was awake at first, and then she starts fidgeting around, and then she just like dozes off, and it's so funny to watch. Oh, and then at a convention when I met one of my favorite artists, and some museum sketches that I did at a modern art museum, the MoMA. And recently in the Museum of Modern Art, they hosted a Pinocchio exhibit of the newest stop motion Pinocchio movie. And it was really cool seeing all the sets that they had. And then, yeah, that is my sketchbook for this, I guess, the last 3-4 months-ish. And I'm still working.
All
And I
right.
also have another smaller sketchbook, but I use that smaller sketchbook for more like, I guess, just jotting down some ideas. And this is more like the sketchbook that I take to, just scribble around. So.
All right. And by the way, too, I should have mentioned before, we start this section, for anyone who's listening on audio, do check out the YouTube version. The timestamp for the sketchbook tour is around 22 minutes and 20 seconds. So if you've listened to this episode and you want to watch the sketchbook tour that we just did, you can go on YouTube and check the timestamps down in the caption below. Yep. And how long have you been actually drawing? Like, since what age did you draw? Is like since you were like, as soon as you got the pen and paper, or
Yeah, so I guess like since I can hold a pencil, since I was very young, like I really enjoyed the crayon. I just remember when I was really young, I just really liked the way crayon felt on paper and the smoothness and the versatility, like being able to like splash of color everywhere. And yeah, after that, I just like volunteered to like just ask my mom if there are any like drawing lessons around my house that I could go to. And it was funny. One of my like younger my drawing teachers when I was young said that I had German expressionism in my style because like at the time I was very young, I had absolutely just no knowledge of drawing, and yeah, hearing that was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then I kind of just kept going. So yeah, it was a long journey.
all right, awesome. And what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, if it's a personal project you don't want to talk about a lot, that's fine. Or even if it's something that has NDA you can't talk about, that's fine as well. But
Oh,
if none of those cases are not, if none of those things are the case, tell us what you're doing right now.
Okay, so besides of, I guess, personal work that I really like, there are a few that I'm working on. So I am working on a zine for the first time, which is really exciting for me. It's also like a little breakthrough. It's called The Wicked and Lovely Zine, and I draw villainesses in it, and it's really cool to collaborate with a lot of talented individuals and artists and friends. And other than that, I have a personal project that I'm working on. It is I really hope that I could pitch it as a series in the future, and it's called The Flaune Futurin, and I have posted a few artworks of it on my Instagram. Basically, it is about this story of a brother and sister stepping into this parallel world of like plant and animal hybrids named flaunas, and they start becoming hairstylists for these creatures. And by becoming hairstylists and styling their hair, they kind of are able to solve mental dilemmas and issues of the people that each of those Flana creatures are tethered to. So like all their troubles manifest in their hair, and they're trying to solve it. And I just really want it to be like a really heartwarming and also real, like a story that explores mature emotions while with this splash of like fantasy and whimsicality. So yeah, I'm just doing visual development for this story and also writing up my pitch bible for this story, so that um, I could develop it further. And I'm really passionate about this project. And other than that, I'm also working on my first short film at the moment, which is no spoilers at the moment, but it is like a kind of bittersweet story about a father and a daughter. And I really want to try to relate, I guess, the stories that I create to my personal experiences and what I actually understand. So it could be heartfelt. So that's another project. Um, and yeah, I guess those are the three main things that I'm working on.
All right, and hopefully after a lot of you, like basically you'd have accomplished much of those, you can move on to indie games in the future.
Oh,
And
maybe I'll
yeah,
consider. Yeah.
definitely. And all right, so aside from art and just visual art and everything, what are other interests and hobbies and ambitions you have outside of art?
Okay, so another is just, I guess, first making music, because I play piano ever since I was 6 years old. Um, Again, it's like just seeing such a monstrous instrument creating such delicate sounds. I was like, "Mom, can you get me a piano, please?" And then I got one, and then I just started. I just really like just dabbling around. I compose music as well. Um, and yeah, and that really plays a huge role in animation. I really love music. Music is a huge part of my life. Besides the piano, I also really enjoy singing and making covers of songs that I really enjoy, and I also write my own songs, like just for fun. And yeah, sometimes like I would just sing to myself like I'm a protagonist of my life, to like get my spirits up and stuff. And other than that, I also sports are also part of my hobbies. I really enjoy playing tennis, just going to the gym, jogging, and that's also mostly where I kind of get all my ideas from, and stepping into like the world around me and making connections with them. um, and and yeah, and also I guess a funny hobby I have, which is a little like maybe a little embarrassing, but it's fine. It's that I really enjoy talking to my stuffed animals. um, Usually like at night before I go to bed, and pretend that they're actually like, you know, they could talk back to me. They're like my best listeners, and I really like telling them like stories and just what happens in my life, and that also helps me, um, yeah, just get my like imagination going. Like I really like role playing with people, so it's fun. Yeah, these are my hobbies.
All right, awesome. And I have a question for you. Do you know what the time capsule is?
I'm not sure. No.
I'm just gonna give you a quick little brief on what it is. Basically, I'm just gonna explain what it is in this context, because I don't want to get too technical and stuff like that.
Okay.
Imagine like a hard drive, which this episode is going to be like copy pasted on, all right? And this hard drive is going to be opened up or used 100 years, 200 years, any point of time in the future, right?
Mhm.
And if you had the opportunity right now, a window of time to leave a message or just anything for anyone who might listen in the future, it doesn't have to be about art, it could be anything, all right? And what would you say?
Mm. Um. Oh wow. I feel so much like I have so much power. Uh, um. Mm, Definitely. I guess do not give up on what you really enjoy. This is. I know it's really cliche, but sometimes it's so hard for people to do that because they're always like constrained about maybe what others think defines success or anything, but you really want to stick to like what you love, because that is ultimately going to shape your life and your future, and you don't want to spend your future doing stuff that you don't want to do. So yeah, and also just make concrete steps towards it, I guess. Well, it doesn't have to be like concrete. Whatever method works, but as long as you are making maybe baby steps towards that goal, that like to accomplish, the ultimate, like being able to love what you do every day. It's like my mantra. Like this is ultimately what I want to do in the future. So yeah, just make sure you're happy, and you live your life happily, and yeah, and just work towards it.
All right. Actually, here's an interesting thing. Everyone who wants to answer this question say, "Oh my god, I know my answer is cliche." It's fine. It doesn't matter if your answer is cliche or not, because the way everyone says the same thing that they think is cliche is different every time, and that's, I think,
Yeah.
what's really interesting and important to point out, because we all, like, listen, every one of us know like everything we need to do. All right, it's not about knowing, it's about sometimes putting things into different perspectives, um and I think that's what's really the differentiating factor that makes us have those moments of aha, or like realizations that make us
Mm.
mentally feel refreshed about that certain subject to work towards whatever we're dealing with. And yeah, that was a really
Yeah.
interesting answer. Thank you so much for coming by the podcast. Where can people contact you if they had any questions? Your Instagram account, okay?
Yeah, my Instagram is open for any messages. So yeah, you can contact me there or through my like portfolio website on the contacts page. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And thanks so much again for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in to listen to this episode. And if you watched it on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed the sketchbook tour. And if you haven't watched on the YouTube version, do check it out. And because the sketchbook tours doesn't usually happen that much, And again, thank you again for coming by, and thank you anyone who tuned in. I hope everyone stays safe till next episode. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.